In the last few videos, we went through and set up all of the prerequisites, our local environment and these hosted platforms. But now that we've done all of that, what's the plan? Let's think about what we're trying to accomplish here. And there's a few things. So, at a high level, what we're going to be doing now is our goal is to transform raw source data into structured DBT models on Snowflake using DBT. And we want to save a version controlled project on GitHub. Then we're going to automate testing and deployment of our project using GitHub Actions, which is a feature of GitHub, which we'll see. And then finally, we're going to create a schedule for running these DBT models using a cron job, which is a basic scheduling framework. And we're also going to be able to do that on GitHub. So that's the high level plan. That's how everything's going to come together. And now let's quickly review the target architecture of what we're trying to build and what this mini cloud modern architecture that we built or that we're setting up is going to look like. All right, so it's a lot at once. Let's go through one at a time. Looks like I need to hide my face again. So again, at a high level, here is what we're working with in our training. We have our Snowflake environment, which we just set up, and we're going to have two different high level concepts right here, and everything is listed over here. Let's start with the DBT training. This is going to be a security role for the DBT activity. So we'll say everything that we're doing for DBT specifically will be handled under this role. Remember, we talked about that briefly in the last lesson. Then we have the DBT training warehouse. That will be our compute warehouse where we're going to be having all of our DBT activity run. It's going to use that computational power. And we'll set all this up in a bit. And then we have two databases. We're going to have a raw database and an analytics database. Raw is going to be where all the source data, the source tables will live. So imagine an ELT platform or process that extract and load. Everything will be loaded in theory to raw. In this training, we're not going to be loading anything. We're not going to use anything to do that. I'm just going to provide you with data. But in a real world scenario, you might have a tool like Fivetran or Stitch, Airbyte, or a custom script, something landing data into a landing zone, and that's what this would represent. From there, we're going to move everything to analytics, which is where the transformed data models will live. So that would be data warehouses, stuff like that. And I have a dev for each of these because we're going to have actually 4 databases at the end of the day. And the dev will be for a development environment. So we'll have a development and a production environment. Remember, the original viewpoint is you should have environments, and that's what we'll build here. And again, we'll see this as we go along. Now, here are the different sources that we're going to use in this example that I've provided to you. So each of these represents a schema and tables. We'll have a schema for Fandango, which is really just movie information, motion pictures. And then Avengers, which is superheroes, Avengers, the comics. So that's our source data. We're then going to build an architecture that looks something like this. We'll have a staging schema with some models in it, a warehouse level. So this would be like a typical data warehouse. Dimensions and facts would live here. And then finally, a reporting layer, which would ultimately then be something for reporting tools to look at or end users. We're going to use DBT to move this raw data across the platform. So from raw to a staging layer, to a warehouse layer, and then to the reporting layer. And we're going to use DBT in each of these areas. And finally, all of this code, the DBT code that we're going to write to create this pipeline, will be stored in a GitHub repository. So again, that's how it all is going to fit in here. We have Snowflake, we got GitHub, DBT, all this stuff, and we're ready to roll. So now in the next lesson here, what we'll do now that we understand what we're working on and what our goals are, we're going to go set up Snowflake to create those database objects, the roles and permissions, and I'll provide a script to easily run all of this, and we'll do it together, and that's going to be provided in the next video. So I'll see you over there.